Yeah, somebody's giving a thumbs up. I'm assuming that means you can hear me. Okay, excellent. All devices are running. So inshallah, we can now make start. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen. Nabiyyina Muhammadi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Amma ba'du, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So, my dear brothers and sisters, apologies for the slight delay of a few minutes. My one device, which is supposed to be hotspotting the other device, was jumping across onto the other thing. Harun, wa alaikum salam. If you could just message on the Markaz Lifta wal Qadar group, I think somebody just put a message up saying that, is it live? Just let them know. Yes, there was just a slight delay and everything is now here and everything is now as it should be, inshallah. Okay. Let's make a start, as is the practice. I have tried to remind everybody that we are available on 4 platforms at the moment. The 4 platforms that we have at the moment is Twitter, which is on my left, and that would be at Mufti Mufti a Mohammed Mohammed. So that's the Twitter feed. So if you get on that, once I go live, it will send you a message. Also, we go live on YouTube, which is at Mufti Amjad, and we go live on Facebook, which I think is Mufti Amjad Muhammad or something like that. And also we are live on Twitch, and I think that's at Mufti Amjad or something like that. So if you just search my name, then inshallah you should be able to find those. I suggest becoming members, or whatever you want to call it, subscribing. Reason being is that when we do go live, rather than asking questions and on other social medias, which I don't have access to now because I'm here live, I cannot start jumping around and messaging people. So then at least then people can find that themselves without now taking up, as I can see, administrative time, inshallah. We live and learn. So the process is, for those of you who've been regularly attending, this is our 4th session, mashallah. And I mean, this is our 4th session, and we are carrying on. We're plowing ahead, as we say. And reason being is, we know that we do get lots of people saying that this is a service they need. And Iman has just said that. Walaikum salam. These are great for the community. I hope you don't stop doing them. Love you for the sake of Allah, and I love you in return. And there is a demand for these kind of things. Also, you'll notice that I try to keep it as casual as possible, whilst keeping the ihtaram of the ilm, whilst maintaining the respect of the knowledge, but I would like it to be accessible to the people. And in order to make it accessible, I've tried to kind of tone down the seriousness of it and be able to share it. So as I said in the last session, this is a service that we're providing for the community. We would like the community to use it. Obviously, the team and I, we keep a watching brief on things, and we look to see whether it is something that we should continue, what's working, what's not working. I know sometimes I have internet problems, but we try our best to continue to provide that service. So let's jump on to the YouTube, because that's where the question has come first. As I quickly scan across the other one, I don't know if the Facebook is going out. If somebody could message on the Facebook live, because sometimes when it does this, what it's doing right now, I get a feeling that it may not be going out live. Is there any Islamic consensus on ending life support in cases of medical futility? Interesting question, Sami. There is no consensus as such. The consensus as such is that when, let's look at medical intervention. Okay, firstly, medical intervention, according to most of the pious predecessors, is not a requirement. Okay, a medical intervention is not a requirement. It is something that one can do in order to improve one's life and facilitate good for them, but it's not necessary. Why? Because it cannot be proven absolutely that medical intervention can cure a person. So, for instance, if I have a particular illness and I carry out, I take some medicine for it, there's no guarantee that that medicine is going to cure me. There's no guarantee. However, the only things which are considered as absolute are food and water and sleep, I would say. So these three things, there is absolute certainty that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put life in them. What we mean by that is that if you do not eat rizq, if you don't eat food, you will die. Okay? It may take you about 7, 8, 9 days, whatever, but you will die. If you don't drink water, then you will die. It might be 2, 3 days or whatever, but you will die. And if you don't sleep, then I don't know how long it will take. But remember, this varies depending on each person's age, physical fitness. Then you will die. Anything other than that, it cannot be proven that there is khair in it. You could get cancer and you could get all the interventions under the sun. Some people are saying it's not live on YouTube yet, but I don't understand why, because it is live here. If there's any sisters on here, if you could just let them know on the Markaz al-Iftar. I'll shout to my daughter. But Jay, just let them know that I'm live. No, not on here. On we have a ladies Markaz al-Iftar wal Qadr channel. I've shouted my daughter. Hopefully she heard me, and she will post a message on the Markaz al-Iftar wal Qadr to say that it is live. Because we have a channel, a Telegram channel, in which people ask questions. So you can search it on yeah, okay. So people are saying it's live. Maybe people checked it earlier. So okay, I don't understand why that is the case. It's been live from the beginning. I'm not sure why it's not coming up as live. Maybe when people aren't subscribers, maybe it's not coming on live. I don't know. Because it's live here, as you can see, and I've pressed live, so I'm not sure what's going on. Anyway, let's return to the topic at hand. So medical intervention is not a necessity. So therefore, when it comes to that question, is there any consensus on ending life support? Then there is consensus in that life support is not a requirement. Okay, it's not a requirement because there is, the functionality, or when a person is passing due to an illness, then we let that person pass with dignity. We may, keep that person on kind of a life support machine if we believe that that person is going to recover. But keeping him on life support machine is not a necessity. So if a person passes, then they're passed. That's it. When it comes to consensus with regards to is this person going to make a recovery or not going to make a recovery, then really the ulama always say, let's get some medical intervention, let's get some medical advice, and base that on that medical advice. Okay, I hope that answers that question, Sam. If not, just come back and mention it. So next question is, that are great for yep, we've read that one. Exploring new platforms and formats to stay relevant and in touch with the new generation is very important. I believe you could become very big, inshallah. Well, hopefully not too big, because I've been trimming the waist, Iman. So I don't mind getting big muscular, but I don't want to get too big with around the waist. So make it's the right type of big, inshallah. Anyway, as long as the main thing is that we are big in the eyes of Allah, that's what's important. At the end of the day, being big in the eyes of the people has little relevance, unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to give you khair and hold you in high esteem amongst the pious, then that's something of virtue. I only got online, that's fine. Are you saying euthanasia is permissible? No, Suleiman. You jumped to conclusion, Suleiman, if you're the same Suleiman. That was the last time I think you are, because you have a very particular name. Oh, subhanallah. My goodness, going back a bit there, mashallah. Nice to hear from you, Iman. Alhamdulillah. An old student. You must be old as well by now, Iman, if I'm old. So no, Suleiman, please don't jump to conclusions. I did not say euthanasia is permissible. Please, otherwise, this is going to be misunderstood. What I said was it is not necessary to maintain. Oh, subhanallah, Allahu Akbar, 30. It is not necessary to maintain a personal life support. Euthanasia means a intervention in order to kill the person. Okay, so the person is dying, but it could take a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and that person knows that they're going to not possibly die a dignified death. Dementia is settling in, or something is happening, or they're losing control of their body, and so they think, you know what, I would rather die on my own terms. That's euthanasia. So please don't misunderstand about a person who, for example, the doctors say that if we don't take intervention with your cancer, then your cancer is going to spread. And if your cancer spreads, then you're going to die. And if that person says that, look, if that is my taqdir, then so be it. That's a different thing compared to a person who is dying and says, I want some medical intervention. I want to take some drug. I want to take something which will give me death. So always don't read into, because I remember you raising this point yesterday or the day before about BDS. Don't assume something from what I'm saying. Go by exactly what I have said. And if there is clarity that needs to be sought, then rather than suggesting, are you saying euthanasia is permissible? Ask the question, is euthanasia permissible? So yeah, I think there are people watching. Alhamdulillah, our infamous Sohaib Khan has joined, and hopefully he'll be praying Fajr in the morning, and he's been praying Fajr in the last few mornings. And so we've got no questions coming in yet from the Facebook, but we have, mashallah, coming in from the YouTube. So let's pick this one up again on YouTube. Is it permissible for members of a family to each allocate a percentage of their zakat money into a pot to allow one or more of the members to go for Hajj, given the rise of cost of living and Hajj prices? Okay, the thing to bear in mind here, Sami, is that zakat recipients have been specifically mentioned in the Quran. Okay, as-sadaqatu lil fuqara wal masakin, and the list goes to 8 groups. And these 8 groups have been divinely instructed to us that only they may receive zakat. Then the Prophet ﷺ has given us tashrih as to what is a faqir. And there's some slight ikhtilafat, I get that. And what a miskin is, what a wabn sabil is, what is amilina alayha, what is fir riqab. And this, we get enough detail. Now, if there are, so when we've got zakat, then that zakat is only those 8 people can receive it. We cannot pile up our zakat. We should give our zakat immediately. As soon as zakat becomes fard upon us, that money is no longer ours. That money belongs to somebody else. It is the money of the faqir, the miskin, the amilin ilayha, the fir riqab, the ghamirin, wabn sabil, fi sabilillah. It's their money. So we have no right now to hold on to this money. So we have to give that ASAP. Okay, straight away we have to give it to that person. It's their haqq. And we're withholding their haqq. And what right do we have to withhold somebody's haqq? And if we start withholding the haqq of others, then Allah SWT may withhold the haqq upon us. So we should give that straight away. Okay? And Hajj only becomes fard upon somebody when they have the money. So if a person does not have one of the shurut of Hajj, okay, is that a person must have financial means. And if they do not have financial means, then Hajj does not become fard. It's like, for instance, that if in wudu, we have to wash the arms, we have to wash the face, and we have to wash the feet, and we have to wipe the head. But if we have had our legs amputated from beneath the knees, then we don't wash the feet. Now, somebody might say, yes, but washing the feet is fard. Yes, absolutely it is. But if you don't have feet, how are you supposed to wash them? Similarly, if you don't have the money to perform Hajj, okay, if you don't have the money to perform Hajj, then how can you go for Hajj? So if the shart is ghaib, then the mashrut itself is not conducted. The thing which is conditioning something, if that is not present, then the thing it is conditioning isn't also not required. So I hope that answers that. How do you calculate Hajjat al-Asaliya in the Bab of Zakat? Specifically, what should be considered for future binding payments that will be deductible? Hajjat al-Asliya, in terms of future payments, there's none which are deductible as such. Nothing is deductible for future. The only thing which is deductible in the future is debts. That's the only thing which is deductible, because zakat is given on it's a immediate measure of your situation at that time. Think of it like a pulse. Okay, you are measuring the pulse at that time. And if you know your pulse is too high, or think of it like measuring blood pressure, maybe that's a little bit of a better example. You're measuring your blood pressure. If your blood pressure is too low, you need to act. You cannot say, yeah, but let's wait a while, the blood pressure might go up. It might not, you might collapse. And if the blood pressure is too high, then you have to act. So with zakat, you take a window, a snapshot you take of your assets. And when you take a snapshot of your assets, you calculate your zakat there and then. The only reason, and according to other madhab, this is only, according to Ahnaf, yes, you do, but according to other madhahib, you do not deduct any debts either. They say, debts are not deductible. So when it comes to you're taking a snapshot, the only reason when we speak of the Hanafiya that they deduct debts is because they say that money that you have actually is not yours, because a portion of it belongs to Abdullah, or a portion of it belongs to Fatima, because you owe them money. You owe Abdullah £1,000, you owe Fatima £500, and you've got £3,000. So if you've got £3,000, then 500 it doesn't really belong to you. 1,000 doesn't belong to you, because you got to pay that person. Hence the reason why we deduct it, not because it is a necessity, if that makes sense. Okay. If a Muslim was confused as to whether al-qada al-mubram could change or not, would that confusion be sinful? Al-qada al-mubram, I'm not sure what that means. If you could just elaborate on that. Jazakallah, that's going back to the question on zakat for Hajj. What if a person had financial means in an earlier point in their life for Hajj, didn't go, now at the moment doesn't have the means? Is it further upon that? Interesting. Yes. So Sam is giving this explanation that, let's say, let's just say that there was a scenario that a person, young person, early 20s, working, earning a good money, and now has, in the months of Hajj are after Shawwal. So as soon as we have Eid al-Fitr, then the months of Hajj are starting. And then we have, the 2.5 months that we wait for. And when that time comes, in that time period, now we have the finances. It is binding upon us now to go for Hajj. But unfortunately, we take a nonchalant attitude towards Hajj. We take a carefree attitude towards Hajj. And instead of prioritizing this serious act of worship, we decide not to go. Life moves on. We're now in our 30s. We have a moment of inspiration. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in his gracious and mercy, opens our hearts up to the deen. We understand the deen a little bit better, and we start to understand the gravity of some of the decisions we made in earlier life. And we think, you know what? I made a mistake. A Sheikh, a Maulana, is giving a lecture, and in the lecture, he is saying that, and he explains the mas'ala. He explains the mas'ala that, if you have not performed Hajj and these conditions were met, then Hajj is still binding. So in that case, Hajj is still fard upon that person. It has been triggered. Okay, it has been triggered. And because it has been triggered, he or she will need to go. Now, obviously, they don't have the means to do so. Well, what they'll have to do now is they'll have to gain the means. They will have to gather the means in order to do so. It would not make sense to borrow and put himself into debt to do so. What it would be is to prioritize, tighten the belt, and start, financing himself in such a way that he's putting money aside so he can go as soon as possible. And the fear that he should have and the remorse that he should have is that, what if I pass away in this state? What if I pass away in this state where I do not get chance to perform Hajj? That is the fear that we should have, that when we are given the ability and we choose not to do so, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may remove that ability from us. And if he moves that ability from us, that is what we should fear most. Now we feel as though we decide whether we're going to pray salah or not. Now we think we decide whether we're going to keep a beard or not. Now we think we decide whether we're going to go for Hajj or not. Now we think we decide if we're going to fast or not. There may come a time when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes away that capacity of choice. And now we're in a situation where we can't go for Hajj because we just don't have the financial means, or we're severely ill, or we can't travel, or many other reasons that can come about. Similarly, Ramadan comes, but now we suffer with such an illness that if we don't take water every few hours, then we will fall sick. So now we can't fast. So be wary. Be very concerned that that opportunity is not taken away from us. Can I give zakat to my nieces who live with their parents but do not have wealth that makes them hirmana zakat? The thing is, when we speak of giving zakat to my nieces who live with their parents, then normally they will come under the ruling of their parents unless they're adults. If their parents can support them, then really their parents should be supporting them. They wouldn't necessarily be taking zakat itself. So that would only be if they were adults and they were below that value. But if Hajj is ala tarahi, I have a choice to delay even if I'm possession. Yes, there is that possibility which exists within the Ahnaf, that there is that delay element available, but it's a risk. It's a risk. The factor I'm talking about is the risk factor. Is that it's a risk. Why would you risk it? And especially as Sami is mentioning, that prices are going up. And now in that part of the world, we're seeing that there is instability, for want of a better phrase. So what are the chances of flights? Again, Suleiman, you're reading into things. Risk is not sinful. I've not said it's sinful. I'm saying it's a risk. It's risky. And why would you risk something when it's a virtuous act which has great reward and also cleanses you of your sins? And it is as though your mother gave birth to you. Why would a person risk in delaying that? Yeah, I think if we just use English terms, Suleiman, rather than using Arabic terms, because not everybody is obviously aware of these sorts of terms, so it doesn't serve any purpose for the audience that we have at the moment. So it means delay, that you can delay. You can delay. According to some of the fuqaha, one can delay their Hajj, and they would not be considered as sinful because it's an act which has to be completed within one's lifetime. And as one is still alive, technically, it can still be completed on there. Yeah, I'm trying my very best, Facebook people, but because, mashallah, Suleiman is on fire as always, he's not giving anybody else chance to ask some questions. So I'm going to take that point. So I hope I explained that to Sami. Iman, I can't forget Iman. Iman's my student. Can you go back to my question? I meant Sahaba. Sorry, I didn't see your question. Let me scroll up. They are great for the community. Don't stop though. Okay. Exploring new platforms. I believe will become very big. Iman, no, it is live. Inshallah, I can't see your question, Iman. There's no question here. So if you scroll up in the chat, I cannot see your question unless I'm going blind in my old age. So if you can just maybe reattach that question, I'll just have a quick scroll on the old Chehra Kitab, see what's on here. So hey, the thing with you, so hey, mashallah, is you're another Suleiman. You just put so many messages. Can't see the wood for the trees. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I have a very important question, mashallah. It depends what you mean, because it might be important to you, but it might not be that important at all. I am doing a computer course. Let's read it. I'm doing a computer course from an institute. The fees of the course of 6 months is 20,000. But if you pay with installments, they are charging 23,000. Will this count as sood? No, it depends. Because it could be, because when you have a price and a product, then you could have two prices and two products. Meaning, if you pay immediately, then this is the price. But if you pay in installments, then this is the price. So a product can have two prices. But if they say to you that 3,000 we're charging you as interest, okay, that's a different thing altogether. Okay, so you need to clarify from them, what is that 3,000? Is this now because when you pay in installments it costs 23,000, or is it because it still costs 20,000? The price of the course is 20,000. Nearly lost Facebook then. The price of the course is 20,000, but you're being charged 3,000 in interest. So that question you need to put back to them. I've given 2 installments already. Okay, that's fine. Sheikh, are you receiving incomes? I am. Scroll up for the question. I have. Okay, good. So that's that done. Still waiting for Iman to put his question up, which will just give me enough time to jump on to the questions which have come via the Telegram. So let me answer these if you don't mind. But you can, in the meantime, put your questions up, inshallah. We still have half an hour. So then I can, when I finish the Telegram Darul Iftar channels questions, then I can pick these up here. Assalamu alaikum. I hope you're well. When one is fasting, one can lick their lips. Can one lick their lips, then lick them again? Will the fast still be valid? Yes, the fast will still be valid, but just to make a point to you on a kind of more on a moisture perspective, that when you lick your lips and you moisten them, then what the water will do is the water will evaporate. And when the water evaporates, it uses the moisture from your lips to evaporate. So all you're doing is you're making your lips drier and drier and drier. So it does not make sense to lick your lips. You just get into the habit of not licking them. Maybe it's an idea that when you break your fast, that you apply some Vaseline or something to your lips so that they have sufficient moisture in them. It doesn't have to be Vaseline. It can be anything else for that matter. We lost Twitch then for a second. So next one, I have a follow-on question from a recent will seminar. Assalamu alaikum. Reference joint ownership, property, and Sharia compliancy of will. Most properties are set up as joint ownership, whereby the survivorship rule kicks in on death. The survivorship rule, it means, and this is particularly for couples when they own both own a property, is that when one of them dies, then the other person receives the property. Is this Sharia compliant? If not, what Sharia options are available? No, it won't be considered as Sharia compliant, because if two people own a property, let's just say a husband and wife own a property and they own 50% each of that property, then say when the husband dies, then he might have numerous heirs. So it might not just be his wife that is his heir. He may have children. He may have parents. So therefore, those heirs also exist. And it would not be right just for his wife, in this case, to inherit. In the Shafi school, we have hiba rukba, gift and nuzriya, a vow to support joint ownership, mainly to avoid undue hardship on the surviving spouse, where they may be pressurized to sell the family house so that the other rightful heirs can take their portion in cash value from the family house. Is this permissible within the Hanafi school? If not, what options are available to ensure surviving spouse can remain in the family house and are not duly pressurized to sell the family house? So it is mentioned there's something called rukba. There is something called umrah and rukba. Now, umrah is not like when we go for umrah. It's umrah, okay, and rukba, whereby a person can gift. A person can gift and say to this person that whilst you are alive, you can take benefit from this property. So there's a much discussion in the books of fiqh about this. I spent some time looking for this mas'ala just to make a point that, people say, oh, I've got a quick question, but just for this particular mas'ala, I was looking through 2 or 3 books, and these were kind of summative books. They're not the actual asal books which have the mas'ala in it, but these are books which have gathered those particular mas'ala. So he mentions this al-umrah, okay, in which a person says, "Amartuka hazid dar," I give to you this house for the length of my life, umri, or umraka, or the length of your life, or hayataka, or hayati. فإذا مت أنا فإذا مت أنا فهي رد علي. If I was to die, then it comes back to me and back to my inheritors. Okay, so then there is big ikhtilaf. What happens here? That does this person, does he have this property? Is it his now? And does it return back to him? How does all that work? So in this case, when it comes to that, this is considered as a hadiyah. It's a gift, and a shart, which is fasid in gifting, is not taken into consideration. A shart in bay is taken into consideration, which is fasid. It will stop the transaction. The transaction will be suspended until that fasid shart is removed. And we did a lot of this ashrutu fasida when we were looking at the payment processor and how it was impacting on a particular payment processor. And therefore, that will have to be removed. But in hiba, in gifting, a shurut al-fasida makes no impact on that. It does not have an impact on that. And what will happen is the shart is removed and a full transfer of ownership takes place. So this is not something which can be applied in the manner which is being suggested. And the Hanafi school themselves don't have anything of this nature. Even though the Shafi school has been made reference to it, the Shafis do look at it slightly differently when it comes to that. Imam Abu Yusuf is also of the similar opinion, as is the Hanabila. But even then, having said that, to construct it in the manner which is being suggested, whereby this would circumvent the distribution of one's inheritance or potential inheritance just solely to his wife or to her husband, so that there is no pressure on them to leave the family house. Assalamu alaikum. Can we put a social media post saying all the best for 2024 to all our clients? Jazakallah. Absolutely, one can do that. There is nothing wrong in wishing anybody, Muslim or non-Muslim, all the best. Because what it is, this is a dua of khair. This is asking a supplication of good for people. And we should be ambassadors of sharing goodness. And there is nothing wrong. We do not deny, this is a fact, that it was the 1st of January 2024 a few days ago. We're not going to stick our head in the sand and say it never happened. Of course it happened. And the reality is, living in the West, we do use that calendar for our social settings, for our work. That's what dictates it. Unfortunately, what we do as a result is detach ourselves from the Islamic calendar. So now if you ask, are we in Jamad al-Ula? Are we in Jamad al-Thani? What month is going to come up? Is it Sha'ban coming up? Is Rajab coming up? How many months till Ramadan? We are a little bit unfamiliar, but everybody, as a child as small as 4 or 5 can tell you from January to December in the right order. So there's absolutely nothing wrong in doing so. A couple of more questions here from the Markaz Liftar group, and then I will pick up any questions that have come in on the YouTube channel, which is there's a couple there. And Iman, I need to see your question, young man, because I would feel really upset that you came on and then I wasn't able to deal with your question. Now that you're a 30-year-old, mashallah, just shows how old I must be. Assalamu alaikum. I'm a fish keeper, and I had a question about pet food, which you mentioned a few days ago. Most of the food available contains aquarium-based microorganisms such as plankton, brine shrimp, and Daphnia. And I don't know what Daphnia is. I thought it was a name of a woman or something, which are classified as crustaceans. Some ingredients include algae, which is a plant and not really edible for humans. What is the restriction based on? Is it on any edible ingredients which we can't consume as Muslims? Jazakallah khair. No, dear fish keeper, that's not the issue here. The issue which was discussed in particular was in the purchasing, for example, of cat food. Now, when it comes to purchasing cat food, that's where the conversation started from. It is the purchase of maita. It is the bait which is the problem. It is not the consumption of that. It is not that because we can't consume it, we can't buy it for animals to consume. What it means is that the transaction is fasid. Why? Because you cannot exchange money for maita, because it's not considered as mal. It's not, something which is considered as a product. So that's where the issue comes in. Not necessarily that, because these things are not edible, like brine shrimp and plankton and crustaceans are not edible, so we can't buy them. That's not what that means. So I hope that's clarified that point. Assalamu alaikum, Mufti Sahab. I want to know if it's halal to have this chocolate. Okay, well, I guess before you share it with me, it's problematic. Ingredients: sugar, cocoa butter, hazelnuts, cocoa mass, modified palm oil, skim milk powder, whey powder, anhydrous milk fat, cocoa powder, soy and sunflower lecithin, and flavors. It's a particular brand of chocolate. I won't say the name of the chocolate because we're not here to do any advertising. There is no, we discussed whey powder. We discussed 3 sessions ago about rennet. So if you want to know a little bit more about rennet, then please do go back to, I think it was the first day, maybe the 31st of December, in which in that lecture, in that bahas, we discussed and we mentioned how rennet is formed and how there is a ikhtilaf amongst the fuqaha as to whether cheese then, which is manufactured from that animal, is considered cheese which is manufactured from that rennet, because what we get then is whey powder, which comes from the whey. When the liquid separates, when the milk curdles and the liquid separates, the whey is taken from that liquid, which is obviously goes into chocolates and it goes into lots of products. So in that case, it is, as we suggested, more sound, because a lot of the food we get is processed, and it's very difficult then to avoid getting not getting non-zabiha animals, which most likely will be when it comes to the products that we find in the West. So as Ahnaf anyway, it's not a problem because we gave fatwa on Imam Abu Hanifa on that particular case. So that tidies up the Markaz al-Ifta wal-Qadha questions. We're just going to jump back onto here and see what we have got here. Can you, okay, if I'm, Assalamu alaikum. Is it permissible to wear a coat over an abaya for a woman? If so, how loose should it be? There has some controversy about this on social media recently. So when it comes to, a woman covering, her maqsad is, her purpose is to ensure that her body shape is not visible. That's really her purpose. That, when it comes to her body shape, that is not determined. What you find, obviously, even with some abayas, is that they are cut to fit. So if they're cut to fit on the shoulders, if they're cut to fit across the chest, across the breast, if they're cut to fit around the waist, around the hips, then even though she's wearing abaya, there is very little is doing in terms of concealing. So that's the issue. So the abaya is what we refer to as relatively loose fitting, so that at least her form is going to still be there, but it doesn't cover her absolute, to her torso. Well, when she wears a coat, then again, if that coat is not giving, obviously it's still going to give the broad outline of her shape, because her shoulders will dictate that. Because when you wear something on your shoulders, then it will drop down from your shoulders. So as long as it doesn't sort of show her figure, then there's no harm in wearing a coat whatsoever. I don't know what controversy is being on social media. There's always some controversy on social media. That's why we should be very careful about not spending too much time on that, because it can send a person absolutely mad. One has the amount overlooked najasat on their clothing, but happens to be at home and hence able to change. Must they change? When you say must they change, I asked Sister Maryam, I couldn't understand what it means. What is al-qada al-mubram? I did not understand what that means. So if you could explain that to me, then I will answer your question. Again, if we avoid using transliteration with the Arabic, because you may understand it in a certain way and I'm trying to read it in another way, and it's just going to cause extra confusion. Plus, many of the people who are on the didgeridoos, they don't understand the terms we're using, so it's confusing for people. So it is better if we just use English, and that will make life easier for everybody. So I don't understand what al-qada al-mubram means, so you need to give me some clarity on that. So, sorry, one has the amount overlooked najasat on their clothing, but happens to be at home and hence able to change. Must they change? Well, if you had urine on you or feces on you, you know, would you just carry on walking around? I struggle to, if I go for Juma Salah and I walk back from the masjid and I've splashed some water onto my clothes, then I feel uncomfortable to sit in them clothes. Never mind if I was to splash some feces or some urine on there. So I think it's just about etiquettes, isn't it? When you say must they change, is it fard to change? I do not recall reading anywhere that is fard to change. So that's what I would say is something that we should avoid. Salaam, if a piece of food, so again, Musa Isa, subhanAllah, what beautiful names you have, Musa Isa, Allah bless you. When we are giving salam, it is better to give assalamu alaikum, because salam doesn't mean anything. Salam, what does that mean? Salam. So either salamun alaikum or assalamu alaikum. Then at least you're saying you're making dua for me, and I say wa alaikum salam, I make dua for you, and we're both happy brothers, alhamdulillah. If a piece of food is stuck in the teeth, I'm assuming you mean between the teeth, is swallowed during salah, is salah broken? This would depend on the size of it. From memory, if it is a chickpea is usually used as a size to denote that. So that's so really what we should be doing, Musa, is before we start salah is we should be rinsing the mouth. We should be cleaning out the mouth, and this is a habit the Prophet ﷺ encouraged all his companions, was to do the small wudu, yani the washing of the hands and the washing of the mouth, the rinsing the mouth. Iman says, I'm not sure my question came through, but I do have to go. Take care, inshallah, and hope to see you soon. Ameen. Wa alaikum salam. My student of many, many years ago, 2009. What's that? How many years ago is that? 14 years ago. Goodness me. So he must have been 16 at that time, because now he's 30. Allahu Akbar. Allah bless him. Yes, Mariam, I've already dealt with that. Following up on the fish food question, those ingredients are water-based organisms, so they can't be regarded as maita. That's correct, as they die when they're taken out. Therefore, will they be? Yes, because fish itself is also not considered as maita when it's taken, because that's how fish die, don't they? When they're taken out of the water, they die like that. So no, that will be absolutely fine to purchase. That's not an issue there whatsoever, Yasin. Okay, let me just have a quick scan on the Markaz al-Iftar groups. Any questions there? As I said, I don't have the app on my Mac, so I copy and paste them onto a chat with my wife. Mashallah, she's very happy to get loads of questions come on our chat. And then I read them off there. I need to find a way to get Telegram onto Mac, and then I can have those on here. That's that. As it stands, no questions outstanding apart from Sister Mariam, who needs to explain what she means by that on the YouTube. So that's good. Telegram, we don't get many questions on there. We get people viewing, but no questions. So that's good and bad in the same way. We're all right on Twitch, as they're saying, and on Facebook. I think all the hold on, sorry, Sohaib's question. How do we tell atheists or non-Muslims about the age of or marry of Aisha with the Prophet ﷺ? I've written about this actually, with regards to this. The thing is, there's many aspects of our faith that an atheist or a non-Muslim or even a Muslim in present day and age who's a little bit detached from their history will find, that's kind of. So, and we have to bear in mind that the societies of that day, accepted practices of this nature. Even we find, for example, societies within the West practice this marriage of this nature. So it exists. Okay, it has existed. How do we explain to about social practices that took place 1500 years ago? The Sharia considers a woman who reaches a girl who reaches bulugh to be a woman. That's what the Sharia considers. But you'll find nowadays, in 2024, that even within Muslim cultures, women don't get married till much older. So that doesn't necessarily mean that, it's become impermissible now. It's just what was socially acceptable. Back, going back 50, 60 years, within Muslim communities, it was socially acceptable for children, for people to be betrothed to each other when they were children, that when they grow up, these two are going to get married. It's less so now. Similarly, a lot of marriages that took place were within the family, but now it's very, very less so. So these are cultural kind of practices which go on, but you cannot explain everything to everybody. At the end of the day, if there's what I call aggressive atheists and what I call curious non-Muslims. When it comes to aggressive atheists, you can give every explanation under the sun. They're not going to accept it. They've already made their mind up. They are what the Quran and the Hadith refer to as kafir. They've made their mind up. They're absolutely certain that they do not want to believe in the Prophet ﷺ. They don't want to believe in Allah. They've absolutely made their mind up. We don't know, obviously, their akhirah, what their halat is going to be. What I'm saying is that in that space, in that time, they are absolutely gone and adopted a particular position. To the curious non-Muslim, then one can explain these things to say, look, this is what was culturally acceptable. That's why it was done. But if you just isolate this one instance, then look at the other wives the Prophet ﷺ had, and they were much older. In fact, many of them had been either married, had been married before. And let's go back to the time when the Prophet ﷺ was at his youngest, when he was 25 years old, and he was married to a woman considerably older than him. So, and he only had that same wife for the next 25 years of his life. So, but it's easy to kind of pick on these sorts of things. What is the hikmah behind that? Well, we see the hikmah behind that is the Prophet ﷺ strengthened the bonds of brotherhood with Sayyidina Abu Bakr, Sayyidina Umar, Sayyidina Osman. Either he gave his daughter, and Sayyidina Ali, either he gave his daughters to them to marry, or he married their daughters, Aisha being the daughter of Sayyidina Abu Bakr. Furthermore, Aisha was around 18 years old when the Prophet ﷺ passed away. Meaning, if he had married her at that age, then she would have had no time with the Prophet ﷺ. And we know she is the highest female narrator of hadith. So had she not married him, والسلام, we would have lost out on all that information, all those ahadith she shared with us. Similarly, we find out most of his private life, that as men, we need to know how we could behave with our wives, and what is permitted and not permitted, and what kind of conduct is acceptable in the house. We find that particularly from Aisha radiallahu anha, that she shared all these intimate conversations and these intimate points so that we know how we can and can't behave. So there's so much, and obviously I'm only answering in a very short way, but I have written about this in place, and you hopefully will find that somewhere, inshallah. But I hope for the few minutes I've done it some justice, inshallah. Right, barakallah fiqh, that's that. Happy there. Let's just get back to this. Maryam says it's part of faith. If a Muslim was confused as to whether could change or not, yes, please do go for Fajr, Suhaib, and make sure you don't go for Fajr, rather. Please do go to sleep, and when you wake up for Fajr, make sure you remember all of us in your du'as. We will hold you accountable for it. Yeah, just retype the question, Sister Mariam, because I don't understand it. Just be clear in the question. We've got a few minutes, inshallah, so you still got some time. Following up that we're doing that one, would you agree niqab is having the opposite effect? It is attracting attention when it was designed to repel attention harm. That's specifically in this country. The niqab wasn't necessarily, first of all, there was no such thing as the niqab. What was a woman would have a cloak that she would place over her head and throw one side over one shoulder and throw the other one over the other shoulder. And that's what she would have. And she would draw it across her face so that it would cover half her face and only one eye would show. So when she would put the shawl over her head and throw it over, she would throw it over this eye. So only one eye would be visible, and she would use that eye to see where she's going. Okay. Yeah, you keep doing that. I tell you, don't use al-qada al-mubram because I don't know what that means. So please retype the question, but say in English. So going back to that is when they would put that over their they would put that over their face. But as times moved on, that one piece of clothing now has become 1, 2, 3 pieces of clothing. We have now the headscarf and the abaya or jilbab is the rest of it. What this has done, you see, is now it's given levels of hijab when there's no such thing as levels of hijab. So a woman may cover her hair with a hijab, and when she covers her hair with a hijab, she'll say, I practice hijab. Why I practice hijab? Because I've got something on my head, I'm practicing hijab. But in reality, the practicing of hijab is the whole shabam, the whole remit. It's not just the head covering that is coming under the hijab. So I would not say that this is having an opposite effect at all. Okay, I would say that it's not causing any issues as such. I think there will come a point when it does come to that point when the ulama will say that there's no need for it. But the maqsad was not to repel attention or harm. The purpose was so that the beauty of the woman would not be seen. That was it. It was mainly because men are worse at it now, ogle over women and they stare at women. So when they're staring at women, they're looking at their faces, and this is where the issue has come up, and hence the reason why the covering of the face was brought as wajib. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. If one was confused as to whether Qadr and Taqdir, the one which is not subject to change, will that confuse be sinful? How can confusion be sinful? What that person needs to do is just sit with a scholar or sit with listen to the video or listen to their lecture and try to understand a qadr taqdir more. The issue you'll find is obviously qadr and taqdir is a complicated topic. Free will and predestination, it's complicated. And trying to understand that usually just leads a person into down a rabbit hole. So sometimes it's best to just accept that there is predestination and taqdir, but I am responsible for my acts and leave it at that. Now try to understand, did Allah know that I was going to do that? And if I was going to do that, then, it'll just make your head spin. And it serves no purpose. Remember, the ilm that we seek and the understanding that we bring with the ilm we seek has to be beneficial. If it has no benefit, then you're wasting your time. It is not, it's not useful whatsoever. No problem. Oh, Sister Mariam, I think that explanation you gave was more than suitable. Sinful is when you do something. Remember what a sin is when you do something by choice, when you're overcome with your desires or you're overcome with something. That's when a person becomes sinful. If Allah knew that specific person will go to hell, why did he create them to send them to hell? Subhanallah, what a question. If Allah knew that specific person will go to hell, why did he create them to send them to hell? But guess what? We've run out of time, subhanallah, on that question, on that cliffhanger, literally. So I am going to give my salams. We're on 8 o'clock. We have to fix and stick to our schedule. But don't worry, everybody. Alhamdulillah, we are here, same time, same place tomorrow. Suleiman, we will always be live. Barakallah fiqh. Sami, hope to see you tomorrow as well, inshallah. Please do share the links to people. As you're hearing, brothers and sisters are finding it useful, but it's only when they know that this service is here. If they don't know about it, how they're going to find something useful? So share the links with your friends and family. Your question, Amjad, will come. We're past our slot, 8 o'clock. So you'll have to come tomorrow, Amjad, to ask that question. Amjad, what a nice name, mashallah. Ameen, Suleiman, Ameen. So please, there might be 1 or 2 minutes delay from inshallah. There might be 1 or 2 minutes delay from 7 o'clock, but the aim is that I go live at 7 o'clock, and until otherwise, I will post something on the group if that's not going to be the case. But please do join, hang on there. It will be on the same. I've given you the YouTube details. I've given you the Twitter details. I've given you the Facebook details. and I've given you the Twitch details. Inshallah, for the foreseeable future, they will be on those 4 channels. It will be at 7 o'clock or there or thereabouts. All you got to do is just keep trying, keep trying. I don't get much time. I've said before, I don't get a chance to go onto the Telegram Markaz Lifta wal Qadar. So even if you put messages on there, I won't see them because my phone is being used as one of the devices to make this live stream. So I have no devices. And I don't have Telegram on my Mac, so I cannot see the messages come up. And if I start picking things up, like I said, then you're having to look up my nasal passages, and that's not a nice thing to see as I play around on the phone. So inshallah, till tomorrow, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.